Hello, good evening, and welcome. It's Recon87 here, and tonight we're going to be jumping into a stream of Combat Mission Battle for Normandy. Screen up. Everything okay over the audio? So, my last stream on Monday did come out looking a bit like a bag full of tatties, so I've been playing around in OBS and Haut. Graphics and the audio of the stream is better. So yes, as I said, tonight we're going to be playing some Combat Mission Battle for Normandy. Probably a fairly niche game. For those of you who haven't heard of it, the combat mission titles are essentially squad-based tactical combat. There's kind of 6 titles in the latest generation, if you will. 4 of them covering World War II. So it's Battle for Normandy, which was the D-Day invasions and subsequent months thereafter. You've got Fortress Italy covering the campaign, Final Blitzkrieg, and Red Thunder kind of covering some of the Eastern theatres. And then you've got 2 modern titles. Strike Force, which is or Strike Force 2, I should say, which is a theoretical US and NATO invasion of Syria, and you've got Black Sea, which is a theoretical Russian invasion of Ukraine. Unlikely enough, both of those theoretical events actually happened, but that was after the game came out. So the modern 2 conflicts are available on Steam, so you might see a little bit of promo around them if you are on Steam, whereas the World War II ones are still all available for Battlefront itself. And specifically today, so we're going to be jumping into a new campaign, and we're going to be at the Scottish Corridor. So it's worth noting, so this game, so the Battle for Normandy game, actually came out originally in 2008, so it's a very old title. However, one of the good things that Battlefront do, and I think it's a really good way of keeping fresh, is they actually have updated the game along with the engine, or so that it runs on the newest engine, and therefore the most modern title, which Strike Force 2 came out most recently, so it therefore had the newest version of the engine, and all the other games were given backwards compatibility. So under the hood, it's exactly the same game you're playing across the entire range, whether it's the title from tonight or a title from a few. And I think it's a fantastic way of giving life into. But without further ado, let's jump into what the battle looks like. So we're going to start with the Scottish Corridor campaign. So this is not one I've played through before, so I'm certainly, although I'm a avid fan of the combat mission, I'm pretty late to the party, so only came to my attention late last year, I think, when the first Steam release that was of Strike Force 2, and that's when I picked up Battlefront direct from Battlefront.com, and so I played through the Courage and Fortune campaign. I've dabbled in a couple of head-to-head, and I'm keen to get back in with a brand new campaign. Decided to go for the Scottish Corridor. Scots a bit of a run out. What I think for people who aren't familiar with combat missions, so essentially you can run it in 2 modes. You can go traditional RTS, a la kind of Company Heroes, which is or you can do this thing where it's called turn-based, and it's system referred to as WeGo. What that means essentially is so you start your turn, issue your orders, and then 60 seconds of real time plays out, and then you and obviously the opponent give their orders, and then it's played out together. Essentially, it's like real time, but it's chunked up into 60-second segments, and you can issue orders and take time to think in between those. And it is by far and away the best way to play this game. It makes the best kind of head-to-head battles as well with. In terms of the skill setting, we're going to go up to elite. So the only real difference the skill setting makes, and this is stand, is there's no difference in the AI. So the enemy doesn't fight harder, it doesn't fight smarter. It's all going to do around spotting. This is something this game is very well. And essentially on lowest levels, so kind of basic training, I'm not sure if a veteran or not, but it'll be your traditional RTS. You see the enemy, whatever the enemy you see, your whole army knows about it. As you move up, into the likes of warrior and elite, then the individual troops have all their own spotting. They obviously know enemy they're aware about, find out enemy locations, talking to by troops or through radios, communication, and other bits and pieces like that. But they might not be aware of all the enemy units. And yeah, the real difference in terms of going up from the likes of warrior to elite is you lose information. So in warrior, if you spot soldiers, they'll be given an automatic icon, whether they're infantry or machine gun or Panzerschreck. Whether on elite, they're just flagged as infantry, and you've got to try and find that out for yourself. But yes, the spotting, which we'll probably talk a little bit more to a great aspect of this engine, and the game is all about the engine. I'll read through the campaign premise in a moment, but I will say it's not much of a looker. Graphics can certainly do more, but the game's not here to prettiest game in the world, but it's about the engine and about the way it plays, and it is fantastic. Okay, so Scottish Corridor. So situation. Operation Epsom on the 26th of June. Hitler had been eagerly awaiting the Allied invasion of Europe. Their armies on French soil, the German army could finally get at them. We'll see about that. And give them such a thrashing that the western edges of the Reich would be safe from a threat invasion for years to come, allowing the Germans to concentrate their forces against the Russians. He had hoped that bad weather would isolate the invaders in their lodgment from supplies and reinforcements, allowing the assembled panzer divisions to destroy them. He was to get his bad weather. The concentration of forces necessary to deliver the Allies the thrashing he wanted was to elude. Such was the effect of Allied air supremacy that the Panzer Division would take so long to arrive on the scene, the opportunity was. Instead of driving the Allies into the sea, forces intended for this purpose were committed to denying the Allies control of Caen piecemeal. The Allies were able to seize and maintain the strategic initiative from the Germans, forcing them to react rather than launch the counterattack they so desperately sought. Caen. So you can see that from a map up on the top left, towards some initial landings on D-Day, slightly inland from that towards the city of Caen. So Caen, the resting place of William the Conqueror, was one of the largest cities in Normandy, sitting astride both the Bourne River and the Caen Canal. The city was also an important hub in the road net. Capturing it was vital to Allied plans, and the British commander Montgomery was under considerable pressure to do so. The sign was objective for the British 3rd Infantry Division on D-Day itself, but they were to fall short of capturing it. The first serious attempt to capture Caen was launched on June 9th, designated Operation Perch. The Allied forces were engaged in bitter fighting with the forces of the Panzer Division, as well as elements of the 12 SS Panzer Division. While the Allies found it hard to make progress against these forces, the German Panzer Division on the scene were written down badly. The Great Storm finally hit and disrupted the Allied supply lines. The Germans had no force left with which to exploit this window of opportunity. Starved of ammunition for their artillery and replacement for their forces, the Allied forces were on hand. Were sufficient to meet whatever the Germans could. The failure to capture Caen and the severe handling of the 7th Armoured Division, Desert Rats, received at the hands of the Panzer Division at Villers-Bauge, had raised doubts about Montgomery's ability to lead the Allied forces. Even as a great storm was battering the mulberries, conscious of this pressure, he outlined his plans for a second offensive to capture Caen called Operation Epsom. Here we're going to play. So the Operation Epsom itself. Epsom was to envelop the city from both flanks and seize the high ground to the east of the River Orne. The eastern thrust would be made by the forces already in place, while the western thrust would be made by the fresh forces, which include the 15th Scottish Division, which is I'm sure one of the divisions we're then playing with, yeah. Operation Epsom was to be launched on the 22nd of June. However, the storm, severe shortage of ammunition, and bad weather resulted in the postponement of Epsom until the 26th. Spearheading the attack on the western flank would be the untried forces of the 15th Scottish Infantry Division, having spent most of the war defending the homeland and performing exercises. Operation Epsom was to be the Scots soldiers of baptism of fire. Describe the 15th time. Well, the mission itself, raised in 1939, the 15th Scottish Division was composed largely of territorial battalions. They had no combat experience. Our troops might be going in green, and that does matter. Experience does matter in this game about how accurate a shot your soldiers are, how quickly they're going to run and break. 46th Highland Brigade attacked to my right and consists of we've got the 9th Battalion of the Cameronians, Glasgow Highlanders, and the C4th Highlanders. Okay. And on the left, we've got the Highland Brigade, which is the 10th Battalion of Highland Light Infantry, the 2nd Battalion of Gordon Highlanders, and the 2nd Battalion of Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders. Oh, excuse me. Trying to choke myself to death. Attached to 15 Scottish Infantry is the 31st Tank Brigade, which includes the 7th Battalion Royal Tank Regiment and the 9th Battalion Royal. Good stuff. Okay. The campaign will focus on the actions thought by the 9th Cameronians and the 2nd Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, so they're the ones who will actually get to control throughout this campaign. Although we might get some supplementary troops from these other supporting divisions. Like it says there, so we'll be supported by 3 troops of Churchill tanks, and we'll also receive support from 17 pounders from the anti-tank regiment. Camerons are a mixture of regular and green forces. Okay, and then the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, they've got support from reconnaissance elements. The original Italian landed in Singapore just in time to surrender the Japanese before it's been reformed with new men. They are largely green, normal morale. Okay. So one of the interesting things part of these campaigns is this idea of 4 troops. So it says, so these 2 battalions make up our core troops, and the importance is that losses in one mission will carry forward to the next. It's interesting that it's not always purely about obtaining all the objectives. You've got to think about preserving your forces and your ammunition as well. Also part of our core forces are the C Squadron, so a couple of Churchills there, and a couple of from B Squadron from the 9th. Okay, who are we fighting? So the Germans had nearly 3 weeks to prepare their defensive positions along the River Odon, ample time to sight their heavy weapons, register their artillery, and all approaches to their position are further covered by numerous machine gun nests. In the early stages of the campaign, forces of the 5th Scottish Division with remnants of the 12th SF Panzer Division Hitlerjugend deployed in this area. This elite division has been in action without relief since the 80s, and so their numbers are sorely depleted. Whether what they lack in numbers we've made in fanaticism so far in the campaign. So maybe not as many guys, but they're not going to give up easily. Break and run away, they won't surrender so much. As the campaign progresses, the Germans will be reinforced by no less than 2 SS Panzer Corps, as well as elements from Panzer Lehr and the 2nd Panzer Division. So then that's a break of forces. The 2nd SS Panzer Corps had been travelling from 12th of June. They had expected to join to a little more than a week, but instead making twice as long. Allied disruption of the French rail network, as well as running in the face of total Allied air support. Instead of driving a wedge between the 2 Allied armies as Hitler intended, they would be forced to commit their forces to a counterattack to prevent British from breaking out across the Oder. Okay, so what does a campaign actually look like? So we've got 3 series of missions here. One which is the Haut, or one series which is the Haut de Bosq. Order some French words here. So this is played entirely with 9th Cameronians, again support from others. Last 3 missions. We then have Odem Bridges, which with the Argyll and Southern Highlanders, and that lasts 6 missions. And then we have Granville, where we're back with 9th Cameronians, further 5 missions. And this is important, or the way these series work. So units will be fully resupplied and refitted between series. So what that means is, the first 3 missions, any losses, or not any, most of the losses we take, first mission will carry through to 2nd. But we get back to mission 10, say, then we will be refunded. But it does mean that then they'll be replaced with regular or green relevant building up experience. So there might be an opportunity for supply during the long series, depending on how we play. And also with things like ammunition, we've got to conserve over the first few missions as well. So we don't want to spend all our mortar shells, for example, in mission 1, now left for the rest. Okay. And yeah, this is an interesting point here. So it says no one will be ejected from the campaign for losing missions until you reach the battle for Greenville. The campaign will terminate immediately after you lose any mission from a bloody encounter. That. So it means theoretically, sound fun, you'd lose first 9 missions, lose them all, and still continue. Let's hope we don't end up doing that. I lost many Germans who seen ejected from village, but the kind of RP behind it is you down sticking just in reserve and other people sent in to secure it. What is interesting is that there's 3 difficulties: campaign, regular, veteran, and green. And you don't pick ones. You start the campaign at regular level, and then depending if you get a minor victory, you stay at level. If you get a major victory, it'll actually boost you up a level. And if 2 missions, drop down. So it does kind of where you do the harder challenges. And just some acknowledgements test. Okay. Hopefully this music's not loud. It has a tendency to peak up a little bit during the loading. Okay, so that was the mission. So this is the first. So that was the campaign. This is the first mission. So this is 26th of June, the Haut du Bosq. Again, no idea how it should be pronounced. The 9th Cameroons are due to advance south from Menstille-le-Peltry to across the casino objective, the Caen Fontenay Road, and from there to progress south to the hamlet of Haut du Bosq. The plan was for A and B companies to advance towards enemy positions behind a creeping artillery barrage with C Squadron of the 7th Royal Tank Regiment in support. Battalion C and D companies following behind. The Battalion Support Company was to be held in reserve until the objective was secured, however, best laid plans. Due to the failure of the 30 Corps to capture the heights of Rory the previous day, the Cameroons were advancing their right flank open to the enemy, and the lead companies took a mauling from enemy artillery. Fell behind the artillery barrage, and by the time they had reached their first objective, Casino, the lead companies were in such bad shape that C and D companies were called to lead the advance towards. Further, the supporting Churchills of C Squadron, not at the start line when the order to advance came, were to rendezvous with the troops on the advance. They ran to a belt of terribly placed minefields that prevented them from joining with the Cameroons in time for assault objectives. In addition to this, the weather was appalling. Skies were heavily overcast, preventing aircraft from flying missions and support advance on the ground. Heavy rain turned the ground into a quagmire. We are the 9th Cameroons advancing on the Haut du Bosq to cleared of enemy forces. So in this one we have 2 objectives, the farmhouse and the Bosq itself, given the titles of and Tatties. See, we've got 13 to 14 C Company, D Company, and 2 Churchill tanks. Also get back to the detail here that at some point, so 10 minutes in, we'll get another platoon of infantry from C Company, and about 15 minutes in, we'll get another platoon of infantry from D Company. We have 4 25-pounders of off-map artillery support. Okay, and we're up against, discussed the 12th SS Hitler, which are battered but not out of the fight. It also says they have indicates there may be a small machine gun bunker position at the northern entrance to the village, so something we'll have to pay attention of. Start. Also says ground conditions are bad and the ground is muddy, so this is important for primarily vehicles. And a lot of vehicles across really muddy ground, there's a good chance they get bogged down, become paralyzed, and essentially that's them for the fight. They can still fire, but they can't move. Scooch at the tactical map. So we're advancing from the northern end down to the south, yet there's an empty bunker position thereof. Points for the mission itself split between occupying the objectives and destroying enemy forces. There's points for taking less than 20% casualty. I'll do my best, but I'm no expert and do tend to get my guys murderized. Okay, so this should now take us in itself. 20 minutes in, actually getting to the game stuff. Yeah, so we can see it's raining. So, as I said, so while it's not the prettiest game in the world, there is a boatload of graphical mods that we tart things up a little bit. So this certainly does not look like it does straight out of the box. I'm essentially all of my reskins, and I'm running some terrain mods as well. If you are interested in getting the game, or you have it and haven't done modding already, I would suggest going to the Few Good Men website, and they have part of the website there called Mod Warehouse, and they have a huge catalogue of mods that are really easy to use. Download them, drop them in a specific folder, and there you go. And it does make a difference. I'm sure the plans for this eventually come to Steam. I believe Battle for Normandy is going to come later in 2021, but that pans out. In which case, I'm sure they'll all get transferred over to Workshop. But in the meantime, that's how you do it. Okay, so troops that we say we're going to have. So we've got, this is C Company. Sorry, 3 sections. Get my terminology right. And then each section itself actually is kind of teams within that. We'll have our officer, Ferris, for this platoon here, for this section here. I'm going to get my terminology wrong. I do apologise to all these buffs out there. So our officer has got himself a Sten, and our normal bog standard infantrymen have got their Enfield rifles, a bolt action rifle, and then we've got a brain gun for some fire-based support. 3 sections. We've also got within that section a anti-tank attachment. We've got the Piat with 6 rounds, and then we've got another Brand attachment sections. And we've also got a very light mortar, a mortar with next to no ammunition. That's carrying any ammunition. You can see on the unit cards ammunition's in here. We're not going to get huge amounts of ammo. Okay, that's fine. And then we've got the HQ. So, and especially in these older tires, HQs are important, because if you look at the section level, I mean, this guy has absolutely no additional equipment. 18 binoculars, nothing. And your HQ is one of the few people radio in terms of command and control, in terms of, you know, your guys in the fight and making them aware of the enemies, and having him nearby, definite benefit. You can see indicated down here is what their command and control are. So say he's got radio contact and he's within sight of his commanding officer. This chap, yep, so he's a C Company here. And for these guys, you'll see they're within shouting. I think that's shouting distance. I could be wrong on that. So it's visual and then shouting distance of the CO. Okay, so that's C platoon. Then got essentially identical. Sorry, not C platoon. 13th platoon, identical 14th platoon from E Company. Sitting amongst them, we've got a forward observer party. So these guys are obviously there primarily to call in the artillery support. So you can see we've got howitzers, which we'll have a look at later how we deploy those. Here we have got E2 platoon, E Company, 16th and 17th. And then sitting happily in the middle of the road, we've got our 2 Churchills, infantry fighting vehicles. You have slight differences between them. So this is shuttle 6, which off the top of my head I can't remember exactly what the upgrade is between 4 and 6. But anyway, but we're more importantly, so we're carrying a 25mm gun on the front, whereas this is a Churchill 5. So this has got a 95mm howitzer. So this is more, I suppose, more of an anti, but you get close enough and damage to most things. And then so these guys at the back. So as I said, this guy, he's in charge of C Company with Cameroon. So in terms of our order of battle, he's in charge of all these guys, and that's his second in command team. And then we've got a sniper as well, attached to C Company. He might do a lot of scooting about for us. And we do have a brain carrier at the back. Good, okay, so that's what we've got in terms of. Let's get a map. So here's a map, so ties. We know there's an MG emplacement somewhere around here. So big vision in front of that. So our first objective is probably some eyes on that without getting murdered, and then to drop a load of artillery on, maybe some howitzers. Overall, I think tempted to probably get these two up the woods. Better if I come better cover toward let's approach here. Compared to trying to go directly into Natty's large open for fun time. Now, our question is, well, look, you've got these two Churchills, big heavy tanks. Why don't you just roll them forward? And it's not a valid tactic, but especially with these defences, I guarantee you somewhere hidden among here parked a tank piece, and they definitely ruin your day. This game is all about model real, so which is fantastic. So although it does come with a very in-depth and helpful manual, best thing you can, any bit of kit you don't know about. So for example, it's 95mm howitzer as of a Mark 6 or something. I don't exactly know what differentiates it. You can stick into Google, just look up, go on Wikipedia, and they're all, and it'll tell you. I mean, they're all modeled. Like, so you look at this example, the Enfield Mark 1 rifle. In reality, that's a bolt action rifle, 10 rounds to cartridge. So in this game, bolt action rifle, 10 rounds to cartridge. All that stuff is accurately, as is the likes of damage to vehicles. So if a tank in front of an anti-tank piece, it's right. I'll say ranges and armors and differ, but there's a highly good chance it's going to hit you, it's going to penetrate you, and it will take the tank out before you really get anything about it. So really knowing who your enemy is definitely key. But similarly, if you roll him up to a machine gun nest, that machine gun nest is going to do absolutely nothing to him. It's not like health or anything like that. Hit points, it's all modeled on accuracy. So back to the plan. Like I say, I'll probably advance infantry squads up this far, maybe heaps. My one caveat is there is a line of sight on this open to where that machine gun nest is, so we may have to take care of that first. And tempted probably one a little bit back for now, and I might try and push one nice, at least some scouting for right, just to get some eye what's going on. Okay, so let's start issuing some.